Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Gita Jayanti celebration. Wish you all a very happy Gita Jayanti. Before we begin, let us chant the prayers to invoke auspiciousness. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gita Jayanti is the auspicious day of the advent of Srimad Bhagavad-gita. This is the day on which Lord Krishna imparted the essence of Vedic knowledge to Arjuna, and this happened 5,000 years ago. He enlightened him about the ultimate goal of life. Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of the Supreme Lord. The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the darkness of material existence. Krishna was very merciful to us. It is out of his mercy that he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. If someone properly follows the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all the miseries and anxieties in this life and the next life. Arjuna was in a very difficult position because he had to fight the battle with his own relatives when he almost gave up the war. At that time, Lord Krishna showed him the real purpose of life, and he explained all parts of life. And most importantly, Krishna told Arjuna the only way to get rid of all sins and go back to Krishna is by surrendering to him. Devotees, the way Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, let us also surrender to Krishna and pray at his lotus feet for pure devotion. So that would be our prayer today. With that, we begin today's program. First, we have Kirtan and recitation of chapter 12 and reading of the translation. Samanvita would be doing the same. With that, I'll hand over to Samanvita. Hare Krishna, Samanvita. Over to you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Rama Krishna Krishna
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namaste Satya Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachadhyadeshatari
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvidesha Punyavadi Pachatyade Satarine
Prabhu Nityananda Gadada Shivasadi
Namaste Chaitanya Srivasadi
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Krishna,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo.
12th chapter अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः भक्तियोगः अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ताये भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तं तेषां के योगवित्तमाः श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र घमचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखं देहवद्भिरवाप्यते ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम् मय्येव मन आधत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवशिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः अथ चित्तं समादातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यासेऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भवान् मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि अतैतदप्यसक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मध्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम् अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यतः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समसङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्मामृतमिदं यतोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धदानामत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे द्वा भक्तियोगो नाम द्वादशोऽध्यायः हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Now I'm going to read the translation. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all pervading, inconceivable, unchanged, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons, engaged in the worship welfare of all, at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work, and be self situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is the renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can achieve peace of mind. One who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. He by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge, and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
That was a wonderful recitation and reading, Samanvita. Thank you so much for beautifully reciting the most important chapter of Bhagavad-gita, chapter 12, which is the devotional service. Thank you. Now let's move to the next segment of the program. His Grace Satya Sara Prabhu will be giving a class on Glories of Bhagavad-gita. Briefly about Prabhu. Prabhu is the temple president of Hare Krishna Temple of Austin, which is also known as ISKCON of Cedar Park. He is a disciple of His Holiness Rompad Swami Maharaj. Prabhu has dedicated over 3 decades of his life to the practice of Krishna consciousness. Together with his wife, Jai Subhadra Mataji, they have committed their lives to the path of Krishna consciousness, selflessly guiding and assisting hundreds of devotees in embracing the pure devotional service. I'm sure many of us agree that we have started our journey of Krishna consciousness by listening to the powerful Bhagavad Gita classes Prabhu has given. It's our great fortune to hear the glories of Bhagavad Gita from Prabhu today. With that, let's welcome by loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra one time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna devotees. So let's start with Mangala Charana prayers. So please chant along with me. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Sakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadate swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathamitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpata Rubhasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Shadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna devotees, as you all know, today is a very special day in the Vaishnava calendar. It is Sri Gita Jayanti. As Veena Mataji mentioned, Gita Jayanti marks the day when Lord Krishna revealed the Bhagavad-gita knowledge to his pure devotee Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And this happened over 1500 years ago, 5100 years ago. So Bhagavad-gita basically means the song of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is Krishna. And Krishna is not just a Bhagavan, he is Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. He's a Swayam Bhagavan. He is the original supreme personality of Godhead. So it's spoken on a battlefield, which is a very strange place to speak philosophy. What happened after speaking philosophy? At the end of Bhagavad Gita, the fighting happened, the war happened. So one may question, what is the connection between philosophy and fighting? Strange combination. So the Bhagavad Gita demonstrates that the philosophy and action are complementary. Here, fighting means action or complementary. It teaches that the spiritual knowledge is not meant to be passive, but should actively inspire action rooted in clear understanding of life's ultimate purpose. So that's what this combination really means. So philosophy in Bhagavad Gita provides the Vishesha Gyan, the special knowledge of the Supreme Lord Krishna, the ultimate goal of jivatmas, the conditioned souls. And it gives a spiritual vision and the guiding principles, bhakti principles, and the means to achieve the goal, that ultimate goal, which is the process of bhakti or devotional service. So fighting or action signifies I'll put it like this, a faith, courage, commitment needed to uphold those bhakti principles in practical life, in day-to-day life, ultimately to please the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's what it means. So the setting of the battlefield underscores this integration of philosophy and action, or philosophy and religion. So Arjuna was bewildered upon seeing his relatives and the loved ones on the opposing side. And he was overcome with a lot of doubts and confusion about his duties, what he should do, what he should not do, yet complete confusion. And also, of course, he expressed his mind to Krishna. He said, Karpanya dosha upata swabhava prichami tvam dharma sammuda cheta. He said, oh Krishna, I'm confused about my duty, my dharma. And I have lost all my composure because of my weakness, my miserly weakness. So then he said, Krishna, please guide me. So Arjuna was feeling sentimental. His feelings of sentimental were destructive to bhakti, or detrimental to his ability to execute devotional service to the Lord. So that's why the material feelings of sentiment and the material emotion is condemned. So this was because his compassion was rooted in the bodily platform, Dehatma Buddhi, because he was connecting with um, everyone on the bodily level. So rather than the true compassion, which is directed towards the Atma, the soul. So to elevate Arjuna to the platform of real compassion or platform of pure devotional service, Krishna spoke Bhagavad-gita to Arjuna. Since Bhagavad-gita is spoken by the Lord himself, it is endowed with perfect transcendental qualities. So therefore, what happens is when you study Bhagavad-gita, and it has the power to completely uproot our ignorance of who we are, ignorance of the Supreme Lord, and ignorance of process of bhakti, ignorance of this material world. All those things can be completely uprooted by the potency of Bhagavad Gita. And also it has a power to nourish pure bhakti to its highest degree within our hearts. And that's what we're going to see today. So Krishna speaks a very beautiful verse and a very, very important verse from 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and 55th verse. Radha Damodar Prabhu will present that verse. This is a very brilliant verse, and our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada says this verse is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Very, very important. Let me read this. Mat karma krin mat paramo mat bhakta sangha vajitaha nirvaira sarva bhuteshu yasamameti pandava. Meaning, my dear Arjuna, translation by Srila Prabhupada, my dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation, he works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and who is friendly to every living being. He certainly comes to me. Brilliant verse. So, in this verse, Krishna very clearly, unambiguously establishes that the ultimate goal for all jivas or all conditioned souls in this material world is to attain him. Mat paramo. So that is the highest point in realization. So the process, and also he says, the process of attaining that highest goal or attaining him is through bhakti yoga, that is mat karma, or pure devotional service. So from this verse, we can understand that the primary objective of Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita is to firmly establish bhakti yoga as the supreme means to achieve the highest goal. So attaining Krishna means what? It is nothing but it's eternal loving service to Krishna. Eternal loving service to the Supreme Lord, which is nothing but prema, love of God, prema bhakti. So if you see, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's heart underwent a profound transformation, isn't it? So he was so bewildered in the beginning, before Bhagavad Gita was spoken. He did not know what to do. And he completely transformed at the end of Bhagavad Gita. So he moved from a state of total bewilderment and total hopelessness, and to a state of his heart filled with transcendental knowledge and clarity about life's ultimate goal, which is to please Krishna. So fully understanding Krishna's teachings, Arjuna became ready to follow the instructions of Krishna in complete surrender. So that is the transformation. So Arjuna was ready to do anything what Krishna is going to say. He said, I'm completely surrendered to you, so please instruct me what I should do. Then Krishna said, fight this war, and he fought. So that is the state Bhagavad Gita wanted all of us to come to, complete surrender to the Supreme Lord, which is nothing but pure devotional service. So therefore, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are meant to inspire a genuine transformation within us, within our heart. I would like to explore this perspective of real transformation, looking at the teachings of Krishna in Bhagavad-gita today. Huh? I was also thinking about this question: why is transformation is important for us? If you think about it, deep down in our hearts, in our lives, all of us we desire change. We want positive change, positive growth or improvement in life wherever we are. That desire to progress or desire to transform comes from the soul, because soul by the intrinsic nature of the soul is progressive in service to Krishna, and that manifests in different ways in the conditioned existence. So we strive to better ourselves or to improve our circumstances and so on, whether it is changing our mindset or changing our habits or our life situations. The innate desire for transformation is always there. But the problem is we do not know what constitutes the actual improvement, or how are we going to achieve it. So sometimes people look for better material possessions, better house, a better job, a better car, better bank balance, better spouse, uh, and so on. But the issue is that people sometimes fail to be philosophical when analyzing what they truly want. So they focus on external improvements without addressing the deeper inner need for spiritual improvement or spiritual fulfillment. I'll put it like that. So people generally spend their entire lives working so hard, laboring hard, putting forth a lot of effort to acquire material things. That's a sole focus. But at the end of life, even after achieving those material goals, they still find themselves unsatisfied. Huh? Because material things cannot satisfy the spirit soul. So then this raises a very critical question. So what is the improvement they are actually seeking? So most people in the material world cannot figure out what they truly want. So they go after all these temporary goals only to realize that these do not bring lasting happiness. Because at the end of the day, the soul wants happiness. Anandamayo Vyasat. It's a pleasure-seeking spiritual entity. That's what we are. Huh? But these material things cannot really give us lasting happiness. So to understand what we really want in life and to identify the kind of improvement that is both long lasting and also deeply satisfying, so we need to turn to an authority. That's an important point. So in the modern world, there are so many so-called authorities wherever you go. They are like authors and thinkers and philosophers who write a lot of books on how to be really happy in life. They talk about material happiness, and they talk about the purpose of life. They talk about the meaning of life and so on. So some of their ideas may be partially correct, based on their wisdom, based on their experiences and whatnot, but they're not complete, because if it is totally focused on material happiness or material aspect of life, we won't be fully satisfied and we cannot be really happy. So the true guidance comes from the traditional scriptures which have been passed down through generations for thousands of years. And these scriptures are timeless, meaning they have been tested and validated repeatedly throughout human history, from the dawn of creation all the way to the present day, and it works. It moves people, it transforms people's hearts, it moves a civilization forward, not just one or two people, the entire civilization. But the modern theories, they fade away with force of time, because they become irrelevant at some point. But our scriptures, the sacred scriptures, remain relevant because they address the eternal truths of life and the soul's ultimate purpose, which is prema, which is to love and serve the Supreme Lord. Huh? So I would say these scriptures, our Vedic scriptures, are simply, we can say, modern phenomena, actually. But at the same time, they may seem out of date to some people. They think that it's very ancient, But they are, in fact, the most valuable sources of knowledge. The most intelligent and wise persons, meaning the sages, the saintly kings, Raja Rishis of every age, have read and implemented those teachings, and they revered the Vedic literatures because they were getting immense value from them. So recognizing their significance or the importance, so they preserved and passed down this knowledge to future generations through parampara system. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita also. Evam parampara praptam. So this Vedic knowledge comes in disciplic succession, the chain of spiritual masters. Then the purity and the potency of the knowledge is preserved and passed down. So these scriptures contain a perfect knowledge, not a relative knowledge. And we accept their authority, even if we cannot prove everything scientifically. For example, we cannot scientifically prove the existence of the soul. Yeah, maybe you can use some common sense and logic to understand, but you cannot scientifically prove. You cannot just go to a laboratory and just experiment and prove soul exists. Or you cannot scientifically prove the super soul, the existence of Paramatma. Because they are not subject to the limitations of material logic or the methods of material instruments. So these truths transcend the physical world or the physical realm completely and are accessible only through devotion, only through the spiritual insight. So which is why the wisdom in the Vedic scriptures remains relevant and essential for guiding us towards the true understanding of ourself. As we all know, there is a huge or vast volume of Vedic scriptures. So we have Vedas, we have Puranas, we have Upanishads, we have Samhitas, we have Aranikas, we have Pancharatra scriptures. There are so many Vedic scriptures compiled by Vyasadeva at the end of Dwapara Yuga. And Bhagavad-gita is one of the scriptures which is part of Mahabharata, compiled by Vyasadeva. So Bhagavad-gita is quite short, and within that we get the summary of all Vedic teachings. So that's why Srila Prabhupada writes in Ishopanishad, Bhagavad-gita is the essence of all Upanishads. So if you know Bhagavad-gita, that means you know the Vedas, you know Upanishads, you know Puranas. So as I mentioned before, Bhagavad-gita teaches us what is the actual goal or ultimate goal of life and how to attain it. So many great acharyas commented on Bhagavad-gita. It's so overwhelming commentaries, overwhelming translations. There are some notable ones. Shripa Sankaracharya commented on Bhagavad-gita. Then Shripa Ramanujacharya, Shripa Madhavacharya. And within our Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have two commentaries. One is by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and another one is by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan. And our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada's commentary, which was based on Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary. The people often ask me, so what is the difference between Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary and Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary is slanted towards rasa, in the sense the mellows of relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that is the angle of vision that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur takes and comments on Bhagavad Gita verses. And Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentary is very philosophical and very analytical. Though their angle of visions are different or the realizations may be different, but they never contradict the Vaishnava Siddhanta or Vaishnava conclusions. Like Lord Chaitanya, he took Atmarama verse in Srimad Bhagavatam and gave many, many meanings for each word of the verse. Then he combined all the words and gave series of meanings again. So I think it was total 60 meanings or so he gave. Anyway, so like this, there are many other commentaries by other sampradayas as well. So Bhagavad Gita is one of the most famous scriptures in the world, we can say. So the setting of Bhagavad Gita is, as we discussed, is a battlefield. So the war between the Pandavas and Kauravas. So this war was a fight between good and evil. We can say like that. The Pandavas, who was supported by Krishna on one side, that is devotees and Krishna on one side, and then we have the opponent. They were people did not recognize or respect Krishna as the supreme Lord. So that's the first characteristic of a demon. You're hostile towards Krishna. Second characteristics, these Kauravas, they did not even respect Pandavas. That means they didn't even respect devotees. Second characteristic of a demoniac mentality. So these people are called demons. So we see in many instances in the Vedic history where there was a fight between devatas or devas, demigods, and asuras or demons, demoniac in Srimad Bhagavatam. So the conflict between good and evil is the constant theme throughout the day of Brahma. You see, read from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto to 12th canto. So the war between the Pandavas and Kauravas was one such conflict between good and evil. But there is one difference compared to other wars that we see generally. Can anybody point out that? What's the difference?
This was done to please the Lord.
It was done to please the Lord, very good. But in terms of the fight between evil, good and evil, there's one difference, that is, it is a war between the members of the same family, Kuru dynasty. Isn't it? That's a very unique in one sense. And that made it worse because Arjuna had to fight against his relatives, his cousins, his grandfather, his teachers, and maternal uncles, and so on. So it was very painful for Arjuna. But Krishna said, you have to fight. So it was a complex war because of the people involved in the fight were related to each other. So anyway, this Bhagavad Gita has been well respected. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is the all-perfect scripture which can provide perfect answers for all the perennial questions that we may have. So the glories of Bhagavad Gita has been described in detail in Sri Padma Purana. Padma Purana talks about very beautifully the glories of Bhagavad Gita, and also Skanda Purana talks about that. And I would like to quote one sloka spoken by Sripad Sankaracharya in Gita Mahatmya that glorifies Bhagavad Gita very concisely. Very concisely. It's a beautiful sloka. It says, Ekam Sastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Deva Devaki Putra Heva, Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani, Karma Hapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. It's a beautiful verse. So what it says, the literal translation is, there need to be only one holy scripture, that is Devaki Putra Gitam, the divine Bhagavad Gita sung by Sri Krishna. Only one worshipable Lord, Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva. Lord Sri Krishna is the only worshipable Lord. Eko Mantras Tasya Namani Yani. Only one mantra, that is his holy names, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And there is only one duty, Karma Api Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Devotional service unto the supreme worshipable Lord Sri Krishna. So, so concisely, this sloka talks about the importance of worshipping Lord Krishna. So though there are so many gods, devatas, we have one supreme Lord, that is Krishna. In fact, Bhagavad Gita clearly describes the position of the supreme Lord, that is Bhagavan. Which sloka? Of course, many slokas. Can anybody give one sloka where Krishna says, I am the supreme Lord?
Matta parataram nanyat kinchadasti dhananjaya.
Dhananjaya. So there is no doubt. Very good. Very good, Prabhu. Then, any other sloka?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate.
Fantastic. Aham sarvasya prabhu, mata sarvam pravartate. So Krishna just, he establishes his position as Supreme Lord throughout Bhagavad-gita. And Bhagavad-gita also describes a type of action that we should do, not just learning the philosophy. So we should act on that knowledge. That action is we serve Krishna. That is called Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga is, in simple sense, means we engage our senses and mind in serving Krishna and cultivating the loving relationship with him. So this is the only action we need to perform, devotion service. Not Karma Yoga, not Jnana Yoga, not Ashtanga Yoga. And Sripad Shankaracharya says there is one mantra, that is the name of Krishna. There are many mantras in the scriptures. There are many devatas, demigods and forms of the Lord, and there are many mantras, and these mantras are used to worship the devatas and the various other forms of the Lord, and each mantra is considered to have power. So when you chant the mantra at the right time, in the right meter, with the right consciousness, you invoke the mercy of that particular deity that mantra belongs to. So you get the results from the deity. So there are many, many different mantras. However, in order to chant those mantras, one requires qualification. So you should have born in a higher varna, in varnashrama system. And so therefore one should take Vedic Diksha to chant those mantras. However, there is an easier process. That is, you don't need to take Vedic Diksha. You don't need to chant the name. You just need to chant the names of Krishna only. You don't need to learn any of these Vedic mantras. Because chanting the names of Krishna is more powerful than the Vedic mantras. So in this way, the sloka is a summary of entire Bhagavad-gita. So now coming back to Bhagavad-gita setting, as I said, it is a battlefield and doesn't look so suitable for philosophical discussion. So here we have armies gathered to fight. If you read Mahabharata, you'll understand even the first chapter of Bhagavad-gita talks about the blowing all this, the army men are blowing the conch shells, beating the drums and yelling at each other and all those things. So in this circumstance, Krishna and Arjuna are having a nice philosophical discussion. So from this, we can understand that the whole setting is a setting of conflict. I was thinking about this. So this war was a bigger conflict. 18 million people died in this war. But if you examine the world around us, the conflicts are everywhere. It is very common. We see personal conflicts between people, conflicts between devotees. We have conflicts between friends. We have conflicts between families. We have conflicts at workplace. We have conflicts between religions. We have conflicts between countries. Even within country, there is a conflict between the cultures. So we have all sorts of conflicts. So it is a feature of Kali Yuga. It's a feature of a human being, or the human beings in the Kali Yuga. Of course, no one likes conflicts because it creates tension, confusion, pain, mentally, physically. At the same time, the benefit of those conflicts is that we get the opportunity to learn, create, develop, and transform. This is a very important point. That's exactly what Krishna was telling Arjuna. It creates an opportunity. The conflict creates an opportunity to examine ourselves more deeply and ask questions. We can ask questions like, what is the actual truth behind the conflict? Why do we have to fight? What is the best choice of action in this conflict? And what is the result we are trying to get by this conflict? But the problem is people don't ask these questions during conflicts, and conflicts continues centuries, even in some cases, between countries and between religions. But if we are a little bit more introspective, we can use those conflicts as platform for asking questions and getting right answers and eventually come up with a better solution for the conflicts. So in case of Arjuna, he had a lot of confusion due to the conflict. And he started asking questions to Krishna, and Krishna answered all his questions. That is Bhagavad-gita. Finally, Arjuna got the solution. So therefore, in conflicts, we need to shift our mind a little bit, and that way we can actually come to a solution for the problem of conflict. So more than that, we can actually get the answers to questions about how to transform, how to advance in spiritual life, and what is the best goal, and how to achieve the best goal in life. So the first is to realize. So Krishna is talking to Arjuna, and he gave very important lesson. So I just want to go through that. So Krishna was telling Arjuna that you have to realize, Arjuna, the power of mind. It's a very important lesson. In fact, this is not the first lesson we learn in Bhagavad-gita. The first lesson is Krishna tells Arjuna that Dehi knows yata dehe, meaning you are not this body, you are spirit soul. Na anyate anyamane sarire. So but body dies, but soul lives on. So that is the first lesson. But the second lesson is Krishna is telling Arjuna, please understand the power of the mind. This is, for me, when I read Bhagavad-gita with the help of Srila Prabhupada's purport, this is the first paradigm shift happened to me. This is the paradigm shift to understand that mind is a very powerful instrument of the human being that you learn in Bhagavad-gita. It is actually the mind. So when Krishna says mind in Bhagavad-gita, of course, not just a physical brain he's referring to. It includes intelligence, mind, and the consciousness which comes from the soul through the mind, and the emotions it creates. So this whole conglomeration of subtle things that operates our body is what makes us superior to the other animals. Think about it. Because of these faculties, powerful faculties, we can discriminate much more clearly. We can communicate. We can have creative abilities, art, science, music. So this belongs to human mind and human intelligence, and it's a privilege of human being. So the mind is a very powerful tool we have. We can think of goals, and we can achieve the goals with the power of mind. We can visualize things, and we can do abstract calculations, mathematics, physics, which animals cannot do. We have different ways of expressing our emotions and feelings and things, such as poetry. Animals cannot write poetry. We have literatures. We dance. Of course, some animals dance, but more precisely. And all this because of mind that we have. Unfortunately, we do not recognize the power of the mind. It is so powerful that it is, because our mind has been conditioned to go after material desires and material pleasures, and that's all we focused on, sense gratification. So it is pushing us in that direction. And Krishna says to Arjuna, that is not very good for us. At the same time, you can use the mind in a way, it can be very beneficial to us. Because mind can control the subtle body, therefore it has control over the physical body as well. So the mind can determine the results we get in life and ultimately our future. So there is a Vedic statement, what you think of, you become. The more you think about something, and that will manifest in your life. Yatha drishti tatha srishti. No doubt. So that's why, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you see, what you think of at the time of death, you will become that in the next life. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajate ante kalevaram tam tam yavati kaunteya sadasad bhava bhavitaha. So the mind is so powerful. Think about this. It produces our body in the next life. That's the power of mind. This is a very important lesson to learn. The same principle operates in this life too. So whatever you keep thinking, as I said, you will get that in this lifetime also. But in order to get that, you require a lot of mind control. You have to focus on that thing. Then only it will manifest. Not just a daydreaming about it. It requires a control of the mind and concentration on that particular thing. Then it will happen. But the problem is most people cannot control the mind. They cannot focus on one thing. So it wanders everywhere. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, one must deliver oneself with the help of mind and not degrade himself. So the mind can be a good friend of the conditioned soul, or it can be a bad enemy. Atmaiva Atmano Bandur. Atmaiva Ripur Atmanaha, it says. It's an enemy when it is not controlled. If the mind is filled with material desires, then it will take you in the direction. So it acts as an enemy because it is going to degrade our consciousness. It is your friend when you control your mind and set the goals prescribed in the scriptures and concentrate on those goals, and you will achieve it with the help of the mind. Very important lesson Krishna gave to Arjuna. And this is for all of us if you really want to transform your life. So therefore, mind is very important, and one has to control the mind with the directives of scriptures, Bhagavad-gita. Then what happens? Whatever you think of, that is what you will do. So the mind leads to actions. That is another lesson. So, but then actions are very important because we have to have responsibility in the action. So the another thing we learn in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna was teaching Arjuna is responsibility. So we have desires, and to fulfill those desires, we perform actions. And we are responsible for those actions. So this is human being. Animals are not responsible for their actions. So they don't accrue karma. Because the human beings have the power of mind and intelligence. So we are responsible for our actions and eventually the results also, or the consequences. So now the question is, okay, I'm responsible for my action. So what is the quality of action? So that will create a long-term result for you, or long-term future for you. That is called karma. So Krishna talks about that to Arjuna. So we are not only responsible for immediate results of our actions, but also responsible for the long-term results of our actions. So the inevitable or invincible law of karma always operates for the human beings. It always operates on a human platform throughout the lives. So good deeds give good results, and bad deeds give bad results. It is a very just law of justice. So this law of karma exists to make us responsible for our activities. So to help us perform good actions, Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita guidelines about what to avoid and what to do. So he was taking Arjuna to that point. So then how do you know what action to do? That is based on these scriptural injunctions. So we should follow the guidelines of the scriptures. There's a beautiful verse. Gnatva Shastra Vidanoktam Karma Kartum Harase. Krishna says. Therefore, the responsibility means we act based on spiritual knowledge, based on knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Gnatva Shastra Vidanoktam. So then we are acting, and we need to, you are acting for what? You are acting for achieving some goal. So every action we perform in our life based on the scripture should take us to better destination or better goal. So we need to move towards our life's goal. So therefore we need to choose the correct goal in the first place. There are many types of goals given in the scriptures. The 4 purusharthas, the goals of human beings, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So you follow scriptures or Vedic injunctions, so you accrue good karma, then you get more wealth or more opulence, and you can more enjoyment, kama. So generally people focus on these 3, dharma, artha, kama only. Unfortunately, all these 3 goals are material in nature and are impermanent because all these goals are subject to loss by the force of time. Meaning we may lose them in this lifetime or at the time of death. It will be taken away from us. So what happens to jivas when these are the goals for them? I want to follow dharma, I want to have money, and I want to enjoy my karma, but everything is taken away. Then it creates a big disappointment for the jivas. And because of that, it situates the jivas on the platform of distress. They suffer. So that's why Krishna was telling Arjuna that if you focus on the material goals, They are impermanent and flickering in nature, and it creates sufferings. And that's why this world is full of that. So that's why this world is called Dukkhalema Sashvatam. Anityam Asukam Lokam. Asukam, there is no Sukam at all here. So all these material goals we set are ultimately useless from Bhagavad-gita point of view. But we need material goals in our life to keep our body and soul together. We need family, we need money to survive, we need a house, we need car, basic car and this and that. So of course we need to have that. Why? To do more service. Our life is a service to the Lord. So we need material goals also, we need to achieve them. But Bhagavad-gita advises that we need spiritual goals as well. In other words, we need to train our mind to focus on profound goals in life in addition to these common goals or material goals. That's why in the Krishna tells Arjuna, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nish Traigunya Bhava Arjuna, meaning the goal of life is to transcend the modes of material nature. Because if you set the material goals, then you're influenced by the modes only and you act accordingly. So we need to have a spiritual goal, higher goal, and you can harmonize that with the material goals. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nish Traigunya Bhava Arjuna. But many people won't realize that, because for many people it is just material enjoyment. That's it. That is the ultimate attainment. But those people will be disappointed and they will be put into distress by the modes of material nature. But some people who are very fortunate will ask questions about life's ultimate goal or spiritual goal. They ask about purpose of life. So therefore we come to more elevated goal. So they come to the fourth goal of the human beings, which is moksha. So Krishna talks about that in Bhagavad Gita. So liberation means to become completely detached from gross and subtle bodies. And we can attain that state by first practicing karma yoga, because karma yoga will take you to the mode of goodness. And from there you can practice jnana yoga. Through knowledge, you understand what is matter, what is spirit, and realize Atma. Or you can take up Ashtanga yoga and start to realize Atma doing the eightfold mystic yoga process. So, however, as we discussed earlier, simply being free from the gross and subtle body is not the ultimate goal of human life. Ultimate goal is prema. So liberation or moksha is only one step towards prema. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says, therefore we don't have four purusharthas, not only four goals of human pursuits. There's a final one, which is prema. So there's a 5 purusharthas according to Lord Chaitanya. I'll put it like this. Liberation will give you peace. Liberation is peace for the jiva, meaning you don't have material body, you don't have material mind and intelligence, so you don't experience suffering in the material world. You merge with the Brahman and you just be there. So there's a peace, no more suffering. But prema means, love of Krishna means bliss, happiness for the jiva. So to get prema, we have to realize and become fixed not only in Atma, but in the Supreme Lord. So that's what Krishna says very beautifully. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmayamam upashitaha baho jnana tapasa puttamadbhavam agataha. He says, being freed from vitaraga bhaya krodha, attachment, raga bhaya, fear, krodha, anger, being fully absorbed in me, manmayamam upashitaha, and taking refuge in me. Many persons in the past become purified by knowledge of me, and thus they attained transcendental love for me. Mad bhavam hagataha. This is prema bhakti. Krishna says that. So therefore, if you want complete satisfaction, complete joy, and prema, we have to follow the process of bhakti. So that's what Krishna is taking Arjuna to. So the jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga will lead us only to liberation, mostly. So the freedom from the material body and the gross body and subtle body, we can call it liberation or mukti. But in getting prema and going to spiritual world, And love and serve Krishna means special liberation. Vinir Mukta is the Vishesha liberation. And moksha is just ordinary liberation. So therefore Krishna says, Mat karma kran mat paramo in this verse. 1155. So that is the goal of prema, which is beyond just a impersonal liberation, moksha. Here you will recognize that I'm not this body, but Atma, I'm eternal. So this is the big shift that one has to make. It is easy to understand that body dies. Nobody, can dispute that. But to understand that the soul lives on is difficult for most people to understand. Why? Because if you believe in that, then you have to lose your enjoyment. Bhoga Aishwarya Prashaktana Maya Aparita Chetasam. So the people who are too much attached to sense enjoyment and opulence, Aishwarya, the resolute determination or the complete faith in the scriptures or Bhagavad-gita never take place. So they don't want to lose the enjoyment. So it's very difficult for them to believe that the soul lives on. So that's why I was telling, this knowledge is the basic principle. And Krishna speaks that in the second chapter itself to Arjuna. So this is the first teaching of Krishna to Arjuna. Though it is a basic teaching, most people will have difficulty understanding this, as I explained. But it is very important and perhaps most important thing to understand if you want permanent happiness, if you want to achieve prema bhakti. So the matter is very different from soul. Our body is made out of matter, and matter is unconscious, lifeless, temporary, and subject to decay. And our body is made of this, so we get old age, disease, and eventually will die also, sufferings. So these are obvious things, but still everyone gets attached to body. Think about that. So ultimately you are Atma, soul, and it is conscious, it is eternal, it's beyond space and time. In other words, it is the opposite of anything in the material world, and it is who we really are. So to understand this difference between matter and spirit is the first step in spiritual life. So this should be the first intermediate goal, spiritual goal we should have. And we should use our mind to understand this because we know the power of mind. So when we realize that we are the soul, then there is no more fear of death, no more fear of future, no attachment to material acquisitions. There is freedom from desire and hatred, freedom from thinking friends and enemies, freedom from conflicts we talked about. All this disappear. It's a very, very important point. So it is a very good intermediate goal and will become very peaceful, satisfied, and will realize the actual truth, which is eternal existence, Sat. But as I mentioned, that is not the conclusion or ultimate attainment. It's intermediate goal. So Krishna makes it very clear in Bhagavad-gita that there is Supreme Lord Krishna, the Supreme Atma. There are many individual Atmas, but one Supreme Lord. So this is the important for the Jivas because this makes Jiva not simply exist in eternity, but realize that Supreme Lord is there. And the nature of the Supreme Lord is that he is friend of the Jivas. He is a protector. He is a guide for the Jivas in the material world. He guides them. Tesam sadata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam inamam upayanti te. I guide the Jivas who was practicing bhakti yoga from the heart. And externally through Guru, spiritual master. In other words, we get help to realize our situation here in the material world, and we get help to get out of the material world, and we get help to attain the permanent happiness in loving service with the Supreme Lord. So that's why Bhagavad-gita Krishna tells Arjuna, he is the protector of all beings, which means he nourishes them, he encourages them, and he helps them achieving the highest goal. Bhaktaram ekna tapasam, sarvaloka maheshwaram, suhridam sarvabhutanam, natmamam shantim richati. So he acts as a friend, advisor for Arjuna, and whole Bhagavad Gita is based on the fact that Krishna says, I am teaching this to you, Arjuna, because you are my friend. Bhaktosime sakha cheti rahasyam iti itad uttamam. So he acted as an advisor to Arjuna. At the same time, he acted as a servant. He was driving the chariot of Arjuna. So though he is a supreme Lord, the supreme person, he served Arjuna out of love for him. So this is the power of Bhakti Yoga. So that's why Krishna is the perfect object of love for his devotees, love for the jivas. Think about that. His form as perfect beauty, which is all spiritual, not material at all. So therefore, it doesn't decay. So Rupa Goswami beautifully defines the Lord's beauty in Nectar of Devotion. He says that all the bodily parts of the Lord are in perfect arrangement, in perfect proportion, in perfect place in his transcendental body, and they are eternal. So not only beauty aspect of the Lord, he also has wonderful transcendental qualities, and that are most attractive. So these things makes Krishna the most perfect object of love for the jivas in the material world. So the problem in the material world is we want to love, but the object is not perfect. So we go after imperfect objects. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's things of the world, imperfect. So what happens when you repose your affection upon those objects or those people? We end up in a lot of problems and disappointments. But Krishna is the perfect object of love, and he responds perfectly to the love of his devotees, each individuals. And therefore, one is simply satisfied by that reciprocation. So Krishna promises that in Bhagavad-gita. He tells Arjuna, you just surrender unto me and do a devotional service. I will reciprocate. Ye tamam prapadyante, tam satya bhajamyaham. So the ultimate goal of the jiva is to just realizing the Lord, but to realizing the relationship with him. And that is nothing but the relationship of pure love, which is called prema. And in prema, there is an exchange takes place between the Lord and the devotee. It is not one way. You love me and I don't care. It is an exchange or a reciprocation between the Supreme Lord and the Jiva. And this exchange is with great intimacy. So in that intimacy, we get complete bliss, complete happiness, because the Jiva is completely satisfied in the loving reciprocation that comes from the Lord. So Krishna says in 9th chapter, I'm in you and you are in me. So how a profound statement that is. He says, Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya, mayi te teshu chapyaham. So whoever renders service unto me, whoever shows love to me, is a friend. He is in me, and I am also a friend to him. I am in them. I am in him. It's amazing statement. This is the exchange. This exchange is with great intimacy. Krishna reciprocates. So in our temple, we have form of Krishna, and we have Srimati Radharani, who is the best devotee. So the forms of Radha and Krishna represents the highest bliss between the devotee and the Supreme Lord. And that is the goal of the jivas, how to get the highest happiness. So now the question is how to get this ultimate goal of prema. So we have to use our mind and intelligence. As I said, we have to follow the knowledge given in Bhagavad-gita so that our actions are regulated and directed towards the Lord. So Bhagavad-gita gives us a perfect means to get to the Supreme Lord. So it's very practical. Krishna very practically takes Arjuna too. He says that, okay, initially one may not be able to fix his mind on the Lord completely. So Krishna recommends sadhana bhakti. So the general means to develop love for God, to develop prema is sadhana bhakti. You start there, meaning practicing how to love Krishna through process of hearing and chanting and doing various services, using our mind and the senses. Abhyasa yogena tata mam ichattam dhananjaya. It says, so follow the regulative principles of bhakti yoga, Arjuna. In this way, one develop a desire to attain me. Huh? So then, in the Kali Yuga, how do you engage the mind? In sadhana bhakti. So that's why we chant Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Chanting Mahamantra helps us concentrate on the beautiful form of the Lord and his beautiful transcendental qualities and his pastimes. So we can achieve the goal of Krishna Prema. So that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhritavrataha. Namashantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. Dhritavrataha. Going down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So chanting is very, very important. That is the means and the end both. So Bhagavad-gita is a summary of all Vedic scriptures. Of all the scriptures, Krishna to be known and worshipped. We know Krishna himself says that. Vedesha sarvanam eva vedyo, Vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. Of all the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of Vedanta. Vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. I am the knower of Vedas. So the ultimate goal of the jiva is to develop love for Krishna. So the process for achieving that goal is Bhakti Yoga. In that, chanting the names of Krishna is the most effective process for Kali Yuga jivas. And that is where the Bhagavad Gita is taking us to. Then finally, Krishna says, which is very evident from the concluding section of Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, Lord says, he emphasizes the path of bhakti in the form of complete surrender. Sarvadharman paridajya mamekam sharanam vraja. So this is a very clear conclusion and final instruction for all of us. Simply surrender unto Krishna and let Krishna instruct us through our spiritual masters as to how we should act and how we should perform devotional service. This is exactly what the transformation happened to Arjuna, and it will happen to us also when we have full faith and devotion we approach Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Shri Gita Jayanti Mahotsav ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So I'll stop here in the interest of time and see if there are any questions. Veena Mataji, can I take one or two questions?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna devotees, if you have any questions, kindly unmute and ask.
Okay, looks like no questions. So you can always send me offline as well, questions. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity. Over to you, Veena Mataji. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu. That was such a wonderful class. Really very nice. Just a brief summary. The essence is that Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all Vedic scriptures, and it is a song of the Supreme Lord. And you nicely said about the verse of 11th chapter, 55th verse. It is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, that verse. And the key point is the process of attaining Krishna is through Bhakti Yoga, the pure devotional service. Hearing Bhagavad Gita removes the ignorance. And finally, in this life, the only action that we have to perform is to serve the Supreme Lord and develop the loving relationship with Him. That's the main goal of life. With that, thank you very much, Prabhu. We are so grateful to you for giving this class. We will conclude today's Gita Jayanti program by Narsimha Aarti. Madhava and Anjali will sing Narsimha Aarti. Madhava, you're there?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Adela.
Hare Krishna Mataji, we are not able to hear.
Could you keep the mic closer to the singers? అందరూ చూస్తారు
Thank you, Anjali and Madhva. Due to technical issues, we could not hear clearly, but thank you for singing Narasimha Aarti on this auspicious day. With that, devotees, thank you all very much for joining the Gita Jayanti celebration. Quick reminder, we have the second day of Gita Jayanti celebration on Saturday, December 14th. We will be reciting the entire Bhagavad-gita on that day. It starts at 8:30 a.m. So please join, please come to the temple without fail. If you're not able to come the entire day, at least come for a few minutes to read Bhagavad Gita. With that, we conclude the program today. Thank